97% of the energy your body uses right now to think, breathe, and even keep your heart beating is produced by microscopic structures called mitochondria. Yet, by the time you reach age 40, nearly half of these vital cellular engines have likely already stopped functioning correctly or simply died off entirely. If you have been feeling that heavy, unshakable weight of chronic fatigue, if your brain feels like it is operating through a thick cloud of fog, or if you find yourself gaining weight despite eating the same way you always have, you aren't necessarily just getting older. You are witnessing the systemic collapse of your cellular power plants. We are taught to believe that our decline is an inevitable biological march toward frailty, but there is a shocking secret hidden within the latest peer-reviewed longevity research that most doctors haven't even had time to read yet. Recent clinical breakthroughs have proven that we can actually force our bodies to grow brand new mitochondria through a process called mitochondrial biogenesis, effectively turning back the biological clock from the inside out. But there is a massive catch that most people fail to understand, and if you miss this one crucial physiological trigger, all the vitamins in the world won't make a single difference to your energy levels. Wait until you see what happens to your cellular integrity when you introduce specific polyphenols at the exact right moment, because the secret isn't just about eating healthy, but about signaling your DNA to repair itself. The problem we are facing today is a modern metabolic crisis where our environment has become a biological war zone designed to destroy our mitochondria before we even realize they are under attack. Your mitochondria are incredibly sensitive to their surroundings, and the combination of blue light from your screens, the hidden pesticides in our fresh produce, and the constant spike of insulin from processed carbohydrates acts like a corrosive acid on your cellular membranes. When your mitochondria are damaged, they start leaking highly reactive oxygen species into your system, which is essentially like having a nuclear power plant that is constantly venting toxic steam into the surrounding town. This creates a vicious cycle where your remaining healthy mitochondria have to work twice as hard to pick up the slack, leading to rapid burnout and the physical sensation of hitting a wall by 3 p.m. every single afternoon. Most people think they need another cup of coffee or a sugary snack to bridge the gap, but they don't realize that caffeine is merely a loan from your future energy reserves that you eventually have to pay back with interest. But here is the twist. Even the most dedicated health enthusiasts are often sabotaging their mitochondrial health by over-relying on antioxidant supplements that might actually be blunting the body's natural signal to grow new power plants. If you have ever felt like you are doing everything right, but your body is still failing to respond, it is because you are fighting a battle at the macro level when the war is being decided at the molecular level. Imagine your body is a high-performance sports car, but you are trying to win the race while the fuel injectors are clogged and the spark plugs are covered in soot. No amount of expensive fuel will fix a broken engine. This mitochondrial decay is the root cause of what researchers call inflammaging, a state where low-level systemic inflammation accelerates every single chronic disease we fear, from Alzheimer's to heart disease. Comment yes if you've experienced that feeling of waking up after 8 hours of sleep and still feeling like you've been hit by a truck, because that is the primary symptom of mitochondrial sluggishness that most of us have accepted as a normal part of life. We are essentially living in a state of energy bankruptcy, where we are spending more energy just to survive the day than we are producing through our cellular processes. But wait until you see the data on how specific targeted compounds can actually flip a genomic switch called PGC1 alpha, which tells your body to scrap the old broken mitochondria and build a shiny new fleet of high-efficiency engines. The real secret to unlocking this transformation comes at the intersection of nutritional timing and chemical compounds that were once considered rare but are now available in your local grocery store. Most people think they can just take a multivitamin and call it a day, but that is like trying to build a skyscraper with a handful of random Lego bricks. You need a precise blueprint and the specific raw materials to execute the plan. Step number 3 in our process is where most people fail because they confuse health foods with mitochondrial catalysts. which are two completely different categories of nutrition. Before we dive into the 7 foods that are scientifically proven to create these new engines, you need to understand that your body won't build something it thinks it doesn't need, which is why we have to create a positive stressor in the cell. If you skip this part, the foods we are about to discuss will just be expensive waste, but if you pair them correctly, the results are almost immediate. The game-changing tip about the pomegranate paradox comes later in the discussion, and it will explain why most of you have been wasting money on supplements that your body can't even process without a specific gut bacterial bridge. To fix the engine, we have to look at food not as calories, but as biological code that speaks directly to your genes, starting with the most powerful flavanol ever discovered, cocoa. Not the sugary milk chocolate that dominates grocery aisles, but pure, raw cacao or dark chocolate with a minimum of 85% cocoa solids, which contains a molecule called epicatechin. This compound is a master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis, and studies have shown it can actually increase the number of mitochondria in your muscle and heart tissue within just a few weeks of consistent intake. Research from the University of California, San Diego, found that epicatechin stimulates the same pathways as aerobic exercise, meaning it tricks your cells into thinking you are training for a marathon even while you are sitting at your desk. Try this now. For the next 3 days, swap your afternoon snack for 1 ounce of 90% dark chocolate and pay attention to that typical 4 p.m. brain fog. Most people report a steady, calm focus that lacks the jitters of coffee. But the twist is that if you consume it with milk, the proteins in the dairy will bind to the polyphenols and make them completely biologically unavailable, effectively neutralizing the mitochondrial benefits before they ever reach your bloodstream. Next, we must discuss the legendary green tea, but specifically the concentrated power of matcha or high-quality loose-leaf sencha, because the magic lies in a molecule called EGCG, or epigallocatechin galati. Most people miss the fact that EGCG is a powerful activator of AMPK, which is like the fuel gauge for your cells that signals for the creation of new mitochondria when energy is low. When you drink green tea, you are essentially telling your body that it is time to optimize its energy production because the old engines aren't cutting it anymore. In a comparative study between standard green tea and matcha, it was found that matcha can contain up to 137 times more antioxidants than common green tea, meaning your choice of leaf is the difference between a cellular spark and a cellular wildfire. If you find the taste too bitter, that is actually the taste of the very medicine your mitochondria crave. Don't ruin it with honey or sugar, which will spike your insulin and shut down the mitochondrial signaling you are trying to activate. Instead, try cold brewing your tea to preserve the delicate compounds while reducing the bitterness, a simple troubleshooting tip that has helped thousands of people actually stick to the protocol long term. Moving on to the third food, we have to look at the power of dark blue polarity through wild blueberries, which contain a specific class of compounds called anthocyanins that do something no other fruit can quite replicate. Most people don't realize that the stress of cold environments actually makes wild blueberries more nutrient-dense, as the plant produces these compounds to protect its own DNA, a protection that is then transferred to your mitochondria when you eat them. These berries act as a mitophagy catalyst, which is the cellular process of cleaning out the old, rusted mitochondrial parts so that new ones have space to grow. It is essentially the spring cleaning of your cells, and without it, new mitochondria have nowhere to park. Option A is a handful of standard, large farmed blueberries, which are often mostly sugar water, versus Option B, the wild frozen variety that stains your fingers purple and contains 10 times the mitochondrial signaling power. Wait until you see food number 4, because it involves a fruit that 90% of people are eating the wrong way, and fixing this one mistake is the key to unlocking a molecule called urolithin A that is currently being hailed as the holy grail of anti-aging science. Pomegranate is our fourth food, but here is where it gets incredibly interesting and a little bit complicated for the average person to handle. Pomegranate contains punicolagens, which your gut bacteria must then convert into a postbiotic called urolithin A to actually stimulate mitochondrial renewal. But the shocking truth is that only about 30 to 40% of the population possesses the specific microbiome diversity to make this conversion. This is why you might see your friend thrive on pomegranate juice while you feel absolutely nothing. It's a genetic lottery that depends on your gut health. But don't worry, there is a workaround. If you consistently eat diverse prebiotic fibers alongside pomegranate, you can culture your gut to become a urolithin A factory, which will then trigger the removal of dysfunctional mitochondria at a rate that mimics a 20-year-old's biology. This is the ultimate real-world example of why bio-individuality matters. If X food doesn't work, you must fix Y environment first. Don't skip ahead, because the fifth food is something most people have been cooking completely wrong for decades, and they have been literally pouring the mitochondrial benefits down the kitchen sink. Cruciferous vegetables, specifically broccoli and its younger, more powerful sibling broccoli sprouts, contain a precursor called glucoraphanin, which, when chewed or chopped, turns into sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is arguably the most potent natural activator of the NRF2 pathway, which is your body's strongest defense against the oxidative stress that kills your mitochondria in the first place. But here is the critical mistake. If you boil your broccoli or microwave it on high, you kill an enzyme called myrosinase, and without that enzyme, the sulforaphane never gets created, turning your superfood into just plain old fiber. To troubleshoot this, you should either eat your broccoli sprouts raw or use the hack and hold method, where you chop your broccoli 40 minutes before cooking it to let the sulforaphane stabilize. A case study on sulforaphane found that it could actually reverse age-related mitochondrial dysfunction in the livers of mice to levels that were indistinguishable from young controls. Most people miss this tiny detail of preparation, which is why they don't see the massive energy boosts promised by nutritionists. So make sure you are treating your vegetables with the chemical respect they deserve. Food number 6 takes us into the ocean for wild-caught fatty fish, such as salmon, sardines, or mackerel, which provide the high-dose omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, and DHA that form the very structure of your mitochondrial membranes. Think of your mitochondria like a delicate balloon. If the balloon's skin is made of brittle, cheap plastic from seed oils and processed fats, it will leak and pop. But if it's made of flexible, high-quality latex from omega-3s, it can withstand much higher pressures and produce more energy. When your mitochondrial membrane is supple, it allows for a more efficient transfer of electrons, which is literally the process of making life out of air and food. If you are vegan, you might be looking for a workaround like flax seeds, but the conversion rate to the DHA your mitochondria need is abysmally low, often less than 1%. So you should consider an algae-based supplement to ensure your cellular engines aren't starving for structural integrity. The difference between farm-fed and wild-caught fish in this context is night and day. The former is often high in inflammatory omega-6 that act as a biological monkey wrench in your energy production. Finally, we arrive at the most controversial, but perhaps most scientifically backed food on this list: grass-fed beef liver or organ meats, which are nature's most concentrated sources of CoQ10, B vitamins, and heme iron. While many avoid organ meats due to taste, from a mitochondrial perspective, liver is the spare parts store where your body finds every single cofactor it needs to assemble the electron transport chain. CoQ10 is essentially the spark plug of your mitochondria. Without it, the whole system stalls out, leading to the rapid muscle fatigue and cognitive decline associated with statin use and general aging. If the idea of eating liver is repulsive to you, the micro solution is to use a high-quality desiccated liver supplement or mix small amounts of ground liver into your ground beef so you don't even taste the difference. One case study followed a patient with severe chronic fatigue syndrome who, after incorporating small weekly servings of organ meats, saw their mitochondrial activity levels rebound by nearly 60% in just 6 months of consistent intervention. Most people miss step number 7 because of cultural conditioning, but I'll explain why this vitamin of the earth is the final piece of the energy puzzle that makes the previous 6 foods actually click into place. We have spent 30% of this guide looking at why your energy is failing and the next 70% building a roadmap to biological resurrection. But the real power comes from how you layer these solutions into a daily ritual. You can't just do this once a week and expect a miracle. The growth of new mitochondria requires a consistent signal of health and abundance to your DNA. For those of you who want to take it even further, consider the hot and cold comparison. Researchers found that following a high mitochondrial meal with a 30-second cold shower can amplify the biogenesis signal by up to 5 times compared to food alone. The cold triggers brown adipose tissue, which is the most mitochondrially dense tissue in your body, effectively lighting the fire that consumes the nutrients we've discussed today. Don't skip ahead. The final 10% of this journey is about ensuring these results stick for a lifetime, rather than just being a temporary health phase that ends when you get bored. The game-changing tip is to view your plate as an instructional manual for your cells. Are you telling them to build a fortress or a shack? If you found this guide helpful and you're starting to feel the possibilities of a life lived with double your current energy, you are ready for the next level of metabolic mastery. Watch next, the secret to intermittent fasting for cellular longevity, for even deeper insights into how to clean your cells from the inside out using nothing but the power of time. If you missed any of the specific preparation steps for the foods we mentioned today, be sure to save this guide for the step-by-step breakdown you can refer to every time you go grocery shopping. Finally, you should absolutely subscribe for part 2, where I reveal the 5 morning habits that kill your mitochondria and how to fix them before your first cup of coffee. Your cellular energy is not a fixed asset that has to decline. With the right chemical inputs and a few simple lifestyle tweaks, you can have more energy in your 50s than you ever did in your 20s. Try these 7 foods starting tomorrow. Monitor how your brain fog lifts, and remember that you are only 1 bite away from a brand new you. Comment energy below if you're committing to trying at least 3 of these foods this week, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.